And so, what was Gorilla's biggest run in the Northeast?
His biggest run would have to be, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, as a single, I meant, yeah.
It would have to be the early years when he first came in. Because the thing is about him, which is I think why he gets short shrift sometimes as a wrestler, is he peaked very early. And part of that was that he was a very, very big guy and his body started to break down pretty early.
Well, I would
Even
think getting an early program with Bruno would do that to you. I mean, because you're
yes,
already on top, you know.
right. And that schedule was grueling. I mean, that WWWF schedule, even though it was one territory, they had these guys out there almost every night of the week. They were, really grinding. And so he,
And even though, to your point there, even though people think of them with the big towns, the Phillies, the New Yorks, the Bostons, they were running like a lot of towns. They
oh
were
yeah,
running small and mid-sized towns too.
every little town in New England and
Mhm.
all these eastern Pennsylvania towns, every little town in New Jersey, they were hitting. It was a lot of stops on this circuit. So basically, when he came in the middle of 1963, and he was plugged right in immediately because they took one look at him, and that's what they needed. Because part of the reason was Buddy Rogers had been kind of a well, combination of flaking out on them and also having his health issues and things and political issues with him. They had wanted to do the whole return program with Bruno, where okay, now Buddy's going to try to get the belt back, and that never really panned out. So Gorilla got plugged into that spot immediately. So immediately he's doing these main events with Bruno. People didn't even know who he was. The gimmick was brand new. They put him over by having him win kind of a semi-fictional tournament to get the initial title shot. And the first match they had was at Roosevelt Stadium in New Jersey, which was actually I think it's still there. It's a minor league baseball stadium, and it was outdoors. And that match sort of made him immediately into a star. And then they started putting him in at Madison Square Garden. They had two main events in the fall of 63. They came back in the spring of 64 and they had two more. And one of those was the 70-minute curfew draw that they had. And so that run from mid 63 up until the end of 1965 was probably his biggest run. He came back again in 67 and he had a few more matches with Bruno. Fine. He had a pretty decent run of main event matches. But then by the time of 69, which is only, a few years in, they turned him babyface and he got a piece of the company. That same actually moment, they happened at the same exact time. And then really that was the end of his peak as a wrestler. I mean, that's the thing. Like he became more of an attraction after that.
Yeah, he was special referee, or
Yeah.
he would be underneath in the semi-main in a special match or something. When I did the Jim Barnett series for Briscoe and Bradshaw, I didn't realize he was a world champion, and I was doing the Jim Barnett stuff, and he won the IWA World Title in Australia, beating Mario Milano, and then
Yeah.
losing the title to Spirios Arion. And I thought, I never knew Gorilla was a world champion until now.
I know. I made the same discovery, and there's a picture in the book that I found of him wearing the IWA World Title belt to the ring.
Oh my,
Uh, and I found it among his family. They shared all these photos with me, and most
sure.
of them, they didn't really know what a lot of them were, who a lot of the people were, and what. So I saw the picture of him wearing the belt, and I was trying to figure out what it was because it wasn't labeled. And I did some searches online, and sure enough, it was that belt. And that was 1968. He went over there for Barnett, Barnett had gotten Bruno. Barnett was getting a lot of big talent there in
You bet.
Australia.
And it was hot. I mean,
Oh,
Australia was on fire.
yeah, hot and literally hot too.
Yeah.
Gino hated working there, hated it because he was like almost 400 pounds. And he they brought in Spiros Arion, who'd been there before. They brought in a few other people from the Northeast Territory, and yeah, Gorilla got a run with that world title for a little bit before he came home. But he hated that trip, I actually talked to Maureen about it. It was the only time he ever went. And if I could tell a little brief story
Of
about that, of
course.
what
Yeah.
happened there. So apparently, Gorilla used to always wrestle with contact lenses because he was practically blind. I mean, his vision was terrible. And he used to wrestle with contact lenses as an amateur and then as a professional. And when he went, and that's what enabled him to really be so acrobatic and crisp in his moves. When he went over there, there apparently the rings and things were not the cleanest, and you know, the setup was not the most kind of well cared for. It was kind of run down, some of these places they wrestled in,
Yeah.
and the mats were very dirty, and that was a major concern for wrestlers back in the day. There's dirt and filth and bacteria and stuff. So some of the dirt from the mat, from one of the mats, got under his contact lens,
Oh no.
and he didn't realize what it was, and it was festering in his eye. I'm sorry for the it's a gross story, but
Yeah, that's fine.
his eye became infected, and it was very, very serious.
Mm.
Maureen said he almost lost the eye. They had to do some kind of surgery, and he came home with his head all bandaged up from what they had done. And he was so disgusted with what happened that from then on, he never wore contact lenses in the ring again. And what people don't realize is that is the reason there's such a drastic, one of the reasons. He was also getting very big. That's one of the reasons why his work later on was not as impressive and not as athletic. And he started to rely more on the big man moves, the chops, the avalanches, the splashes. Didn't really leave his feet because the man could not see
Yeah.
3 feet in front of
Yeah.
him.
Yeah. He had the Stan Hansen
Yes.
vision.